Maybe it's just me. Maybe I've just reached a point where I'm finally ready to look outside of my own personal problems of just trying to get things going for myself and look around and see what's out there. But partly it's more stuff is coming out. More videos are being produced. More people are expressing opinions, and I think the uh, the presidential race now, where it looks like Obama has got the nomination for the Democratic Party, is allowing for at least a brief moment. And this is what happens in repressive societies. That they have an election, and for a brief moment, people go out and have these little demonstrations, these little parades on the street, cheering and saying, "Hooray! Our guy is now running, and let's vote, and we're gonna have freedom and blah blah blah." And they come out and they celebrate, and then it all gets squashed again. But for a brief moment, there's an election, and people can pretend to themselves and believe that maybe freedom is coming at last. And this may very well be what's happening. In any case, even if Mr. Obama does manage to get elected as the President of the United States in November of 2008, his opponents, the Republicans, the what they call neocons, neoconservatives, the same people that have been backing Bush and all his predecessors, they're not going away, they're not fading away. And from the very moment that the election results are come in, months before he's sworn in as president, they will be after him. They will be trying to crucify him with whatever they can get. They did it with Bill Clinton, and they will definitely do it with Mr. Obama. They couldn't find anything legitimate to accuse Bill Clinton of, to disqualify him from being the President of the United States. So they dredged up or fabricated whatever they possibly could. And they found things completely irrelevant. And Mr. Clinton did let us down to the degree that he did things that placed himself in that vulnerable position. And yet, all of us knew that this is the sort of thing that Clinton had already done numbers of times before. So, I mean, Monica Lewinsky was not the first person, by no means. She was just another in a series of an addictive personality. He couldn't keep away from Monica Lewinsky any more than an alcoholic could keep away from a bottle of schnapps that's handed to him under the table. But the thing is, there's a lot of material coming out now that maybe I simply wasn't facing before. Maybe it's both. It's half and half. There's so much on YouTube showing you, documenting now, if you're willing to take a peek at it, take a look at it, all the garbage that's gone on. Yeah, and it's not just that I'm now looking at stuff, but stuff is coming out in our society. Now all these committees are presenting their reports. 935 lies. Kucinich is presenting an impeachment bill. Stuff is happening now, and it's part of the development of events, of how focus goes from one thing to another, and the focus was taken over by the Clinton versus Obama thing for several months, but now that's finally blown over. There's so much out there just showing you what a bunch of fucking lying bastards have been running this country for the last 8 years. But the problem is, as it always is that it's not really news. Is that all along, everything that's been going on under the Bush administration has been pretty transparent all along. The fact that everything that they did to bring us into Iraq and Afghanistan was bunch of fucking lies is not anything that should be any shock or surprise to anybody who's had their eyes open. It was clearly and obviously lies from the very beginning. 5 years ago, in the early spring or late winter of 2003, when Bush was stamping his feet and saying, "We must attack Iraq, we have to," and the United Nations said, "You don't have any legitimate cause for this." He said, "Yeah, just they have weapons." And they said, "Okay, you claim they have weapons?" Iraq said, Saddam Hussein said, "You think we have weapons? Come and look for them. Come and show us where they are, because we don't have any weapons. Frisk us." Basically, that's what he said. Search us, frisk us. There's no weapons on us. There's nothing. Look, search us, strip us bare. You'll find nothing. So what happened? The United Nations chief weapons inspector, the worldwide chief expert on the whole subject of who's got weapons, went into Iraq, did a supposedly thorough sweep, went through the whole place and said, "Look, I can't find a damn thing. I think I found a couple old Duracell batteries in an old flashlight, and that's about it." And Bush stamps his feet and says, "No, no, no, we know they're there. He's hiding them. They're under his bed." It was obvious lies. Now, the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, that even if Mr. Bush, I used the word Mr., but I refuse to call that guy president, even if Bush gets impeached tomorrow or this afternoon, even if he gets thrown out of office in disgrace, in the disgrace which he has more than earned in the last 8 years, even if Mr. Obama becomes the actual president of the United States, and the whole nation turns around and says, "Oh, we got fooled again," just like The Who. "We don't get fooled again. Get on my knees and pray," you know? What do you think that song was about in the early 70s or late 60s? During the Vietnam War, I get on my knees and pray we don't get fooled again. But how many times did we get fooled again since then? Even if the whole nation turns on them, this is not going to solve the problem. Because as long as we continue to put all the responsibility on some individual leader or group of leaders and shift the responsibility off of our own shoulders for having allowed them to stand around making lies after lies, and we just all they have to do is push our buttons, get us waving flags and supporting them. That's what always happens. That's what happened with Hitler. Hitler got millions of people waving that fucking flag, shouting and saying and wearing the uniform and saying, "Yeah, Heil, Heil, Heil." And then when the shit hits the fan in the end and Hitler ends up supposedly committing suicide, then they can say, "Oh, it was all his fault. We were just following orders." That's exactly what America is going to do, even if the real truth does come out, which is a big if, because it's still being very successfully suppressed. As long as we continue shifting the blame from our own shoulders as citizens, as individual human beings with brains, onto some individual and saying, "Oh, it's his fault because he was the big leader, he was the big monkey, blame him," then nothing's ever going to be solved, and we're going to be in the same situation again and again. Same thing happened in Italy. Mussolini finally got killed, and what happened in 1943? Well, then his corpse got strung up in the street, and people played soccer with his skull. But while he was alive, they weren't willing to stand up against him. And blaming the individual iconic leader just doesn't do it. It's up to us